Right now with capitalism, all of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number? Or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know, Zach.
It's a tough one. I
It's
know.
really hard.
And maybe comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. So tonight, I thought we would keep things a little more casual. I didn't have anything in specific planned for today because I thought I was going to be doing covering a permaculture stream from our friend Mike Hogue from Transformative Adventures, but I got the date wrong, so that's actually going to be at the end of the month instead. And then going forward, it's going to be every second and last Sunday of the month. So I thought that was starting this week. Turns out it was starting a couple weeks from now. So anyway, tonight will be kind of, like I said, casual. Pull up some random videos, and if anyone has anything that they feel like looking at or chatting about, let me know, and we will discuss or watch whatever it is. So yeah. So, while people are filtering and whatnot, put a video up. There's one I've had just kind of in my back pocket for a while, just in case, just for an occasion like this where I needed something to talk about. This particular video is called "Liberal Hypocrisy is Fueling American Inequality," and here's how. It's an opinion piece from the New York Times. And it's pretty. I don't think I've seen the whole thing, but from what I've seen, it's pretty boilerplate, sort of Republican talking points. It'll be fun to just kind of go through and check out. Here's the link in case you want to check it out for yourself. Yeah, okay. I just applied to stream to LinkedIn as well, aside from the other places that I stream. I don't think I actually meet the criteria yet. I think you have to have 150 followers, or friends, or however. I don't ever use LinkedIn, so I don't really know for sure what the metric is, but it's something like that. So I think that's probably why I'm getting that message. Anyway, let's take a look at the video and just do our React Dandy sort of stuff.
There's a question I've had very long time, and it has to do with this map.
So this is Johnny Harris.
This is a map of the 18 states in the US where Democrats control the legislative and executive branches, or else have some veto-proof majority in the legislature.
This is from November, so I assume it's pretty current. I don't think probably much has changed just since November. So basically, he's trying to make a case that Democrat-controlled states are.
Sure. Democrats in D.C. often blame the GOP for foiling their progressive vision.
When middle-class families see their taxes go up, they'll know Republicans are to blame.
But if you zoom in...
I'm probably going to end up agreeing with him, actually, on a lot of this, because this is exactly what the Democrats do. This is kind of their bread and butter in terms of fundraising, is to blame the Republicans and say, you guys got to vote harder, but also donate harder to our campaigns in order to make sure we win next time. That's the only way things are going to change. And so, I mean, it ends up working in their favor too, because then anytime they fail at passing anything or don't even try, they can just ramp up that rhetoric even more, that things are even more dire. And, like, you know, what else are you going to do? Vote third party? And throw your vote away? So, yeah, that's kind of their song and dance. Republicans bad, you guys got to do something about it. And basically that boils down to voting for us more.
To these 18 states, there's effectively no Republicans standing in the way. So my question is
there? Is there, though? Republicans don't always have to have majorities to gum up the works of things either. To say that they're not standing in the way. Okay, we'll see
what do Democrats actually do when they have all the power?
Good question. What do they do?
To answer this question, I teamed up with the Times editorial board writer Binya Applebaum.
Okay, you got my attention.
He's been thinking about and writing books about and reporting on this topic for decades.
So easy, yeah. He's got all the credentials of a random Twitch streamer. Been thinking about it and talking about it and writing books about it for a while. I guess that in some way makes him an expert on the subject. Let's see what he has to say.
I think, you know, Americans tend to view politics as a competition of us versus them, and they tend to think that if they would just get...
So MAGA versus black women, that's the us versus them that he's putting in there? Okay.
...get out of the way, then we can do the things that we want to do. There is no that...
Kind of seeming like that is exactly what the Republican strategy is. That anytime the Democrats are out of the way, they're just going to push as hard as they possibly can to, well, right now, to push back Roe versus Wade in their own state and any sort of abortion protection that they might have. And then take that even further. There's Congress people calling for, I think Marsha Blackburn called for a ban on contraception for people that are not married. And there's talk of trying to take down any sort of rule of law that has come about through the Supreme Court, basically. So turning back federal gay marriage legalization. Yeah, that is exactly what Republicans do when they're in power. And unfortunately, it's not. He's right again, though, that it is not what Democrats do. When Democrats get into power, they seem to fall all over themselves like some comic, like Three Stooges routine. You know, all of them trying to jam through the door at the same time and falling all over each other and never getting anything accomplished. So yeah, he's not entirely wrong.
I'm standing in the way. There's just the we of Democrats and their supporters, and they get to decide what policy should look like in those states, and that is an opportunity for them to implement their vision.
For this story, I also delved into this giant document. It is the 2020 Democratic Party platform. If you want to really understand what Democrats say they want, what their vision is for America, it's found inside of this document.
It's not, though. See, they can put whatever they want into their platform. Their platform, more or less, is a way to bring people onto their side, to work for them, to get them excited about, you know, campaigning for them or telling their friends about them. It in no way is it a enforceable document in terms of the voters being able to force them to do any of their policy blanks. So, I mean, it's basically just that. They can say this stuff and then not do it. So, at best, it's a wish list too. It's you know what we would do if we had all the pieces in place. But oh no, once again, this one thing that we are not going to try very hard to get around is blocking our progress.
This document serves as a guide as we zoom into these states to answer this question: what do Democrats really do when they have all the power?
Nearly 554,000 homeless people from the 25...
What do Democrats do when they're in power? They make homeless people? Yeah. I don't know how they're connecting the one thing to the other. And people have protests. I guess that's the other thing they do. Protests and homelessness.
Five wealthiest Americans shows they're paying little in income taxes compared to their fortunes. Sometimes.
Well, yeah, if only they would tax the rich harder. That definitely could be something they would do that, pretty uncontroversial. Would win them a lot of voter support. That would actually give them the leeway to do more spending on social programs. But they don't seem to be doing that either. We had much higher taxes. Let's see, what has been the tax rate? The federal tax rate, I should say. Now, yeah, because that's going to vary state to state. I wonder how we would even look at that. Maybe average state tax rate? Because we're looking at states. So, Alright, let's see if we can find that. Because when you're looking at 50 different states, and they do tend to switch back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. So over the years, it's hard to figure out that pattern that, when Democrats are in office, the state tax rate is this and such. Oh. Alright, maybe we'll share this page. Let's see who the highest is. California is the highest top marginal income tax rate at 13.3%. It's not that much. So compare California's 13% to the lowest, which is 0 for, actually, let's share this so we can all see it. Here we go. So Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington. So Washington, not exactly a red state. And then Wyoming. Mostly red states, but then there's Washington thrown in the mix. 0% top marginal income tax. So there's no state income tax. And it seems like the average is somewhere around 5%. A lot of states around 5 to 6%. You start, it's only the last few pages. Minnesota, 9.85, one of the higher ones, and we have a lot to show for it. Not in every way you can measure it outcome, but in many ways. Oregon, DC. So it's only when you finally get to the last 5, you even get up to 10%. Not really a whole lot of difference. So taxes is something they pointed to early on, but let's see if we can share this one instead. It used to be easier to switch between the tabs. I don't know what I've done to mess that up. We'll go back to that.
Nothing at all. We cannot, in good faith, blame the Republican Party when House Democrats have a majority.
There's still very segregation happening in all kinds of forms all over this country.
Okay, so let's start with California. To me,
oh boy, so we've covered this pretty well. We did 2 episodes on it, on on the housing policy of California. So let's see what they have to say.
California is like the quintessential liberal state. From the state legislature to the
say.
whole executive branch to most of the big cities,
Out of the way, so you got Fresno and Bakersfield as two. These are kind of random ones. There are other pockets of Republican control. Santa Barbara, Orange County. So why they picked Fresno and Bakersfield, I don't know. Is that, maybe it's by population? Who knows? But yeah, undeniably, a lot of more liberal, larger cities.
Dems hold majority control. So what do they do with all this power?
Looking at California, you have to look at housing.
Okay, now wait, listen. When I hear the words housing policy, I tend to sort of doze off, but Binya insists.
Well, isn't that nice that you don't have to worry about housing? The basic building block of a stable life is something that puts you to sleep. I guess you should count yourself lucky, but for most people, that is not the case. Most people, as we looked at in previous videos, the average income earner in America earns less than it takes to rent a one-bedroom apartment in any state. California, to Wyoming, doesn't matter where you go. There is no state where, where over 50% of people can rent by themselves a one-bedroom apartment. So yeah, I'd say it's probably something on a lot of people's minds.
That housing policy and what is happening in California is definitely worth looking at.
You cannot say that you are against inequality in America unless you are willing to have affordable housing built in your neighborhood.
And Democrats completely agree. Here in
True. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. There should be affordable housing everywhere. I mean, yeah, let's do that. Probably the best way to increase affordable housing is to have governments do it. They're where the most political power to make that the necessary change to zoning, if need be. They also have the power to. They have the taking power. As long as they give fair compensation, they can do eminent domain. And for a public purpose, which would be housing, so that I think most, if not all states, you would be within the law to do that, to take private land for a public purpose, in this case housing. So yeah, they could do that. And then they also have a large pool of money that they can work with. And housing more people, making more people stable, frees up all that money that they would be spending on rent to do other things that stimulate the economy, instead of just paying off debt, which enriches a few people, but not many. That money would instead go to all sorts of places. So yeah, it would be a good idea for the government to be the primary driver of affordable housing.
In this document, the word housing is mentioned over 100 times.
The neighborhood
How much it's mentioned matters, apparently. Not what they say about it. That's a strange way to look at it, but sure.
where you're born has a huge influence on the rest of your life. Children who are born.
Well, I'm glad they're on board with that. You know, where you grow up has a huge influence. So probably, if you are affected by institutional bias, you could be starting out in a much more difficult place to excel from. That's not. I take these guys to be conservatives, so that's not something you hear conservatives say too much. But
in neighborhoods with degraded environmental conditions, with a lack of access to high-quality public services, poor schools, poor public transit,
True.
are at a permanent disadvantage.
yes, these are all things that governments. That's their bag. That is right up their alley in terms of being able to solve and. Being able to solve in terms of having power and money to do so. All they need is the political will, really. and they could build better mass transit, especially in major cities. Mass transit around here, I live in St. Paul, Minnesota, pretty abysmal. We have a couple of good light rail lines and some decent, I wouldn't say great, but decent bus rapid transit. At least there's actual stations along those routes that are semi-enclosed from the elements. It tends to get cold in the winter in Minnesota, and actually really blazing hot. That's something that most people don't realize, but Minnesota gets really hot in the summer. We can have temperature swings from the depths of winter to the height of summer of over 130 degree difference Fahrenheit. So it's a lot to deal with, and so having shelters, good shelters, is a way to both attract people onto mass transit more and, you know, make them able to do it. just giving them the ability to do so when the weather's not so great. So we have some bus rapid lines that have decent shelters, enclosed from the elements, but we could do a whole lot better. We could do a hell of a lot better. It seems to take us about a decade per light rail line to actually go from planning to execution, and that's just not good enough. It's just really not. And there's so much more we could do than basic light rails too. I really do want to take some time soon to put together my vision for a mass transit system in any that could fit in basically any major metropolitan area. That would be dynamic, that would behave differently and look differently depending on whether it's a low density kind of suburban area versus a high density area. That would be reliable, that would run day and night, holidays, anytime. And that would be modern, that would utilize, there's so much talk about self-driving cars. The easiest thing to automate is something that's on a guideway already. That's something we can do now without much trouble. And then if we add to that, it be an elevated guideway, so there's no chance of running into cars or pedestrians or anything, then it makes it even easier to automate. So we could have really good systems that are running 24/7 with minimal driver oversight. But yeah, I definitely want to get into that more. Put out a really good, high quality, not a live stream, but an actual like video essay type video on it at some point.
And they even say verbatim, housing in America should be stable, accessible, safe, healthy, energy efficient, and above all, affordable.
Housing
That's true. I agree with all those things.
is a human right.
Housing
It is.
a human right.
Yes, yeah. I would have to agree that he's not wrong when he calls out hypocrisy, because they do say this stuff quite a lot, especially compared to how much they actually go through with putting it up. You can say housing is a human right till you're blue in the face, but if you don't ever build another unit of housing, what good does that do? Zero.
The rent is going through the roof. Housing is a human right.
How does California do when it comes to housing?
You know where those signs are when you drive into a state, it says, "Welcome to California"? They might as well replace them with signs that say, "Keep out." Because in California, the cost of housing is so high that for many people, it's simply unaffordable.
I have a feeling they're going to miss a really big cause of why housing in places, especially California, in very, globally metropolitan cities like San Francisco, LA, New York, stuff like that. Places that are globally desirable to live in. That housing is super unaffordable. There's a pretty big elephant in the room when it comes to that, and that's that housing is a commodity. It's something that tons of land speculators, will buy up. In fact, they're in the process. There was some Wall Street firm that has been buying up housing wherever it can find it right now, just across the country, and not necessarily with the intentions of selling anytime soon, just because housing is going up so fast in price across the country. So yeah, that kind of seems to be a problem that has been produced pretty much entirely by putting housing on the free market, by capitalism, by treating it as just another piece of private property that you can turn a profit on, by it being most average people's main investment vehicle is their house, because it is, there's this myth that the housing is one thing that will go up forever, as though it somehow can defy the laws of physics. And even after the housing crash of 2008, no one seems to have learned the lesson that it can't, that at some point it has to come back into alignment with reality. So yeah, it seems to me we're headed towards another big crash, because housing is going up at a faster average rate than it is getting more value. Your average house, let's put it that way, your average housing unit is getting more value per year than the median household income. I think I'll look up the statistic. I think it was median household income. It could be individual income. Still, it is a better investment to, as long as you can, provide for yourself otherwise. It's a better investment to have a house than to work at this point. That should probably tell you something about where we're headed. But yeah, so I'm sure they're not going to bring that up at all, but when you commodify something that absolutely everyone has to have in order to live, then yeah, eventually you get these rent seekers who want to hoard that resource for themselves and then gouge everyone on the price. So if housing was not a commodity, if it was not allowed to be a commodity, if you were, say, not allowed to own more than one housing unit, then yeah, there would be no housing shortage at all.
The state has simply, for the most part, stopped building housing. I mean, there are cranes, there's housing going up, but...
Or affordability gap, I guess, more importantly. Housing would be affordable if it weren't so artificially scarce, and if it weren't being so artificially inflated in price.
It has slowed down over time really, really sharply, and it is nowhere...
Well, and see, kind of hiding things in statistics too here. So 2002, so between 2002 and 2021, we are at a 50,000 number of permits in the state of California difference. So there was a low. I wonder what that low was there right after 2007, where it was under 50,000, and now we've been steadily kind of recovering. Not, but he is right saying it's not sufficient to keep pace with the demand. That is true, and that is one thing that keeps housing pricing going up, is just continually more and more demand. But that's also what capitalist systems are based on, is infinite growth. So you always have to have more and more demand to keep making a profit.
We're near sufficient to keep pace with California's population. So okay. So that's basically that same time period. You went from 33 million to 39 million. So you added 6 million people. Now let's say it looked like the average is about, oh shoot, let's go back to his last one. They keep out, because in California the cost of housing is so high that for many people it's simply unaffordable. The state has simply, for the most part, stopped building housing. I mean, there are cranes, there's housing going up, but it has slowed down over time.
Okay. So it hasn't slowed down over time. It has recovered from 2008. Your own graph disagrees with you. It would like a word. So if we can say that 100,000 a year is pretty much the average, could probably draw a line. It's probably a little bit above 100K a year in housing units that they're building in that time period. So well, I'm terrible at math, so I'm not even going to try and do it in my head. But let's figure that out. 100,000 units per year. Oh wait, that's the number of permits. So that could include, that doesn't seem like we're comparing apples to apples either. So that's the number of permits. A permit could be for an entire multifamily complex, could it not? I don't think you need separate permits for absolutely every single unit, do you? I'm not a developer, but I would doubt it. Probably get one permit to build the entire complex. So you're not going to get, that's not how many housing units have been built. I hate it when they hide things in statistics. It's so annoying. Let's see number of housing units built in California since 2000. We'll look at that. Number of new housing units in California since 2000. There we go. See what we can come up for that. Okay. Okay, let's look at info, please. I don't know about that source, but let's see what they got. California housing stats, total housing units. So you have 12 million housing units. So let's see. Huh. It looks like, yeah, it looks like housing has slowed down quite a bit since 1990. So before that point, basically from 1940, I'll share this one. Thanks for the follow. The vaccine doesn't work. You followed before. Thanks to the refollow. Let's share that one instead. Look at some housing stats. So basically from 1940 up until 1990, there was an average of 2 million units built a year in California. And then it started to taper off quite a bit. Until I'm not sure. I don't know if this has current stats actually. Looks like this might only go up to 2,000. We'll look at something different then. California housing trends. This looks great. I don't know. I'm not going to find a quick answer to what I'm looking at, it looks like. Or what I'm looking for, I should say. So I'll put that aside for now. Yeah, they're burying it in the statistics stuff, because it says number of permits. It does not say how many units were built in each of these time periods, and I'm not having an easy time finding that information. But let's look at just the basic Wikipedia page about the California housing shortage. So, since 1970, California has been experiencing an extended and increasing housing shortage, such that by 2018, California ranked 49th among the states of the United States in terms of housing units per resident. This shortage has been estimated to be 3 to 4 million housing units, about 20 to 30% of their housing stock as of 2017. So it's got experts, we'll have to look at the citation for who those experts are, say that California needs to double its current rate of housing production to keep up with expected population growth and prevent prices from further increasing. So it's got a housing shortage of 3 to 4 million units. Okay. And that definitely is going to add to the problem, for sure. That'll make things easier. But yeah, decommodification. Long roundabout way to get back to that. The decommodification, more than even building houses, would probably help the most. Because if you're taking housing out of the speculative market, you're letting the prices return to a much more reasonable level. If you're not allowing people to just hoard housing that goes unused for long periods of time, just because they're sitting on it to sell at a better rate, then also you're reducing the artificial scarcity that's pretty endemic to the market.
I'm really sharply, and it is nowhere near sufficient to keep pace with California's population. And so
Yeah, so that's true. They do need more housing, but then also, yeah, the bigger problem, the housing prices. Because it'd be great to have enough housing for everybody. It'd be even better if everyone could afford that housing.
what you have is not enough housing and too many people trying to get it, and the inevitable result is that prices have gone up and away.
The median price of a home in San Diego County is now a staggering $830,000.
All around California, there are cities full of people who say that they are progressive, they're liberals. They believe in a more equal America, a more diverse America. They show up to the marches, they put in the lawn signs about everyone being equal, but at the same time, they're actively fighting to keep their neighborhoods looking like this.
That is not wrong. Again, we have the pressure from capitalism and most people's house being their primary investment vehicle to be most at fault for this. When the thing that you're relying on to be able to sell potentially when you're of retirement age and get a nice return on and actually have money to retire on, if that's your house, then you're going to want to make sure that the value just keeps going up and up and up. So anything that threatens that value is going to be something that you're going to oppose. So it turns all these people who are depending on their house forever increasing in value, it turns them all into NIMBYs about every single thing that could potentially make their house lose value. So yeah, it makes people behave in hypocritical ways, because for their own self-interest, their own long-term survival, really, they want to keep the housing prices going up and up. But that's not good for people that don't yet have housing. And that's really bad, in fact. Especially when housing is going up way, way faster than income is going up. Eventually it just becomes completely unattainable to, I mean, forever, for entire classes of people. So, yeah, that's capitalism setting people at odds with each other. And, but yeah, it does in fact point out the hypocrisy of these liberal people, that they're the first to cry NIMBY when a new development goes up, even if it's just, you know, increased density. You know, if it's, you know, there was huge uproar in Minneapolis when they finally did away with their single-family detached housing code, or zoning code. So there's no zoning within Minneapolis anymore that is for single-family detached housing. You are allowed to build, I think, up to a triplex on any lot now. And that is a good thing. That means that eventually more housing will be built as you know, housing stock ages out and needs to be replaced. It'll be replaced most likely with something more dense, because the zoning allows for it. But people are so up in arms. Oh, this is gonna bring undesirables into the neighborhood, because there'll be renters if it's, you know, duplexes and triplexes and stuff like that. It basically all came down to it's going to make the neighborhood less desirable, and therefore my property less valuable. And another factor in that is you have a vested interest as a homeowner to have a lot more demand for housing than there is supply, because it makes your home more valuable just by default. If you have something that there's ever increasing demand for, that makes the value of your thing go up in a free market system. So just resisting upzoning is a way that homeowners can increase the value of their own personal assets. And again, it puts them at odds with people that really need that upzoning.
Okay, wait, but that doesn't look so bad. It's just a bunch of houses in a neighborhood, right? No. It turns out that this is actually the result of specific policies, intentional policies, that keeps these neighborhoods spread out and full of single-family homes, as opposed to higher density buildings like duplexes or apartment complexes. This is a real, serious fight, and you can get a glimpse into it by looking at a zoning map. Yes, we're looking at a municipal zoning map of Palo Alto, California. Don't leave yet. This is really where it sinks in, so just stick around.
It is very important stuff. It's the sort of thing that first attracted me to urban planning, which I eventually got my master's degree in, because the way that cities are built and shaped and allowed to grow or disallowed from growing, it affects everything. I mean, the city affects everybody's life. So it is really important stuff, even if it seems dense and complex. It's really not. Don't let any urban planner tell you that what they do is super complex or, you know, uninterpretable to the average person. Most of good urban planning, I would say, the vast majority of it is pretty intuitive stuff. If you have a city, it's usually better to have more people able to live in a smaller area of land. Providing for mass transit is the most appropriate way to get a lot of people around. It is the only thing that can reduce traffic congestion. Yeah, none of these things are really all that complex. They just like to use a lot of jargon and fancy. There's not even really fancy, but theoretical are theories that you know are made much more complex than they actually should be to justify the policies that they justify. But it's really not. Yeah, it's just not that complex, really. It just seems that way. So don't be intimidated.
Around. So everything on this map that is yellow is zoned for single-family homes, like this and this. One family can live here. But
so this means that. So very basics of zoning. Just as he said, if it's zoned for a single-family dwelling, that means only one housing unit can be built on that entire lot. So you couldn't put up an apartment complex. It also would be residential as well. So we have, and here again, the useless jargon and complexity of planning terms. So we have what's known as Euclidean zoning, which has zero to do with Euclidean geometry. It has to do with a famous test case. Euclid versus, I don't even remember now, doesn't matter. But Euclidean zoning basically is segregated uses. So here's a residential neighborhood, here's a commercial neighborhood, here's an industrial neighborhood. You can't do any two of those things in any of those other places. Each thing has its own use, and you can only do that thing in that zone. That's your basic Euclidean zoning. And it's dumb. For the most part, it's useless. The only time that it actually does have real material utility is when it comes to noxious uses, like some industrial uses where, you know, if you had people living next door to it, their health would be at risk. Then there's good justification. But other than that, there's no real good justification for any of it. But the point is, this is the predominant style of zoning in the United States. Segregated uses, Euclidean zoning. So as long as these areas, like the ones that he just showed, stay single-family dwellings, it doesn't matter how much demand there is for multifamily complexes. It doesn't matter how many more people want to move to that city. They can't build anything else. You have to change the zoning to a more dense use before you can build a more dense use. And that takes a lot of things, but most importantly, it takes putting it into the city's visioning plan, which is it's usually called a comprehensive plan. Again, it sounds really complicated. It sounds really technical. It's not. A comprehensive plan is basically laying out the various things that a city does: housing, transportation, parks, utilities, all that sort of thing. And it says this is our vision for the next 20 years. And there's almost always a chance for the public to be involved in that. Varying degrees of how much they can actually assert their own will, but they can at least have input. They can comment on things. They can give their own ideas of how they want their city to grow and change in the future. But basically, if something is not in the comprehensive plan, it's not going to change. So changes to zoning has to align with changes to the comprehensive plan. So yeah, it's not impossible, but it makes it very hard to just change a city, unless it already has zoning that allows for it.
here in Palo Alto, there are a lot of new jobs. This is a desirable place to live for new opportunities.
James says, what lowers the value more, renters next door or tent cities next door? Yeah, well, the thing about it is renters you can't do much about. It's not as though you could just seize a landlord's property and turn it over to private owners. Tent cities, on the other hand, you can just clear out over a night, you know. You can send a goon squad of police in to break up camps, throw away people's possessions, lock them up, put them in the drunk tank or whatever. Use whatever pretext you can to get them out. So yeah, tent cities are worse for value, but the plan is that most cities put into action is forcing them into homeless shelters or forcing them out of the city. And that's about it. Otherwise, they don't care. They're the people that have the least amount of rights in this nation. They pretty much don't vote. There are ways to register to vote at a homeless shelter if you are homeless, but I mean, by and large, people that are homeless have a lot more to deal with than worrying about who to vote for. So they have a lot more immediate and pressing concerns. So they're just not ever going to be a very strong political bloc of voters. And therefore, they're not going to get much favorable treatment from the people that are elected by their neighbors. So yeah. But I agree. If we really wanted to solve housing problems, we would trying to get homeless people into stable housing. We would do the housing first policies that we looked at it in the previous videos, which I'll link in a couple of minutes here.
Over the past 8 years, San Francisco area has added 676,000 jobs, but only 176,000 housing units. So a few years ago, the city council voted to change the zoning of one section of the city right here. Specifically this 2-acre plot of land. They wanted to change it from low density housing to higher density housing so that they could build a 60-unit affordable housing complex for elderly members of the community.
That's the sort of thing that usually is like, you know, grade A, top choice development for cities. That's what they want more than anything, is large, it's like multi-unit senior living facilities, because senior citizens have disposable income to a certain degree. Not always a great deal, but you know, they have enough so that they can keep on renting. They don't get tossed out of their places very often compared to other people. Also importantly, they don't tend to have children living with them. It often is prohibited for other people to live with them in these senior complexes. So they're not going to be any sort of a burden on the local school system. So cities love senior living facilities. So it's yeah. Seems to be winding up for them being all NIMBY about it, but that makes zero sense to me. Because a big building like that, a huge redevelopment, is going to up the value of all the surrounding homes. It absolutely will. And it's going to bring in, maybe, I don't know if Palo Alto, I keep saying Alto, but it's Alto. Palo Alto, I don't know if they have their own sales tax, but if they did, that would be a lot more into the sales tax coffers. Because seniors like to, you know, spend their money eating out and doing stuff. You know, they get bored, so it tends to go to activities that end up costing money. So if they have their own sales tax, that would be another way to get more revenue into the city's coffers as well. But just having a large building like that, that's not going to be a likely source of crime, it's not going to be a burden on the school system, and it's just a large structure so that it is greatly enhance the overall property taxes that lot is going to produce. That's usually, you know, almost rubber stamped in a city, but it looks like they're going to reject it for some dumb reason. Let's see what that reason is.
Okay, so they changed the zoning. Start building the 60-unit complex. No, the overwhelmingly liberal residents of Palo Alto decided to hold a vote to overturn the decision, to revert it back to low-density, single-family housing, back to yellow. And it passed, and the zoning was overturned. So now when you go to this plot of land, instead of an affordable housing complex for the elderly, what you're gonna see is this. A row of just a few houses all of them massive and worth around $5 million each.
I think people aren't living their values. You go to these meetings in these neighborhoods where they're talking about a new housing project, and it's always the same song, and it goes like this. I am very in favor of affordable housing. We need more of it in this community. However, I have some concerns about this project.
So who would these people at these meetings be? Is it going to be renters or low-income people of any type? Almost certainly not. It is going to be the homeowners. And it's also going to be the homeowners that can have the best ability to vote, the best ability to push public opinion towards their own interests. And so even though we had the supposedly democratic exercise in this example of people voting whether or not that zoning should be overturned, I would pretty much guarantee that the people that voted against it are almost 100%, if not 100%, homeowners. So, representing their own private property interests. So.
We have the hearts to do this, but we're doing it wrong, and we're dictating and harm onto the neighborhoods.
And then off we go with the concerns, and then nothing ever gets built.
This is happening all over California. And
this is not good. Euclidean zoning sucks. There's, as I said earlier, there's virtually no good reason to have it. It actually started in California. I think the first, even though it's called Euclidean zoning, it didn't start with that court decision. It was a practice before that. This is just what more or less made it the federal law of the land. Let's look it up too. Stupid case law. I had to learn so many of these, and how often do they come into importance? Not very often. Euclid versus Ambler. That's the one. Versus Ambler Realty. Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty. This established segregational zoning, segregational use zoning as a legitimate way that governments could do business. So here it is. I'll just link it. We're not going to read the whole thing. It's really long and boring. Basically, it made legal across the country segregational zoning and zoning for density as well. But it started in California. These people didn't want to have immigrants near them, so they made zoning laws that outlawed laundromats within so many feet of residential areas, which forced the Chinese people or the Chinese immigrants in San Francisco to basically move elsewhere, because that was one of their main sources of income, was running these laundries. Let's find the one for that. Not even sure what to call it. This might be it. How a racist laundry law in early San Francisco. I'll help civil rights. No, that probably wasn't it. No, that's a different one. Let me just look up the origins of zoning. Here it is. So early zoning ordinances in the United States were more narrow in scope and later became more comprehensive. Modesto's 1885 ordinance banning wash houses from certain areas of the city, it wasn't San Francisco, it was Modesto, has been argued to be America's first zoning ordinance. So they banned those wash houses again to try and keep Chinese immigrants away from them. And zoning has not had a great record since that point. It has been responsible for the vast suburban sprawl that we see today in most places in America. It doesn't really do a lot of good other than, you know, again, produce that artificial demand because you are unable to increase your supply legally. In fact, you go to most small towns that still have a main street that may have been built in, 100 years ago or so. And you would find, if you looked at those maps, that you couldn't do that sort of stuff today. So where you would see, a business of one kind or another, a market, a bar, whatever it may be, law office on the ground floor, and then housing above it. In most parts of most cities, you cannot do that. In most parts of those cities, you could not redo that because the zoning has changed into segregational uses. And it just creates this artificial scarcity for housing that then is really good for people that have houses because it raises their property values, but it's at the expense of everyone else. It is pretty literally slamming the door behind you as you get something that everyone deserves, which is housing. All right, let's go back to the video.
The result is that these neighborhoods are so expensive that they keep anyone out who isn't a part of this small group of super rich residents, many of whom bought their properties decades ago and who spend their time fighting vigorously to keep the value of their real estate assets super high.
If you want to keep Palo Alto the kind of neighborhood and community that...
I hate these kinds of speeches that NIMBYs always do. Just fundamentally changing the character of the neighborhood. That's what this new development would do. It's like, that is what every city development is. Every city development changes the character of the neighborhood that it's in. If we didn't want to ever change the character of a neighborhood, we would never build or rebuild anything. It would just all be put under glass, and things would just slowly deteriorate. It's such a rubbish argument, and it's mostly just a dog whistle for keeping poors and brown people out. So they'll frame it as, you'll hear that word again. That's a good watchword at a city council meeting. People start talking about changing the character of the neighborhood. That's exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about keeping out poor people and non-white people, and that's it. That's all they want to do, because to them, and they may not even understand that that's racist in practice. They may just be thinking that anything that threatens the value of my house is something that I want to keep out, and it's a shame that it happens to be those sorts of people, but so be it if it helps me out as a homeowner. But still, that's the end result. Is that's how you keep your housing prices high, is by keeping people out.
we all treasure. Low intensity, low density, safe for kids to walk to school.
Safe, another one. Yeah, implying that poor people are dangerous and non-white people are dangerous. And they'll use so many dog whistles. It's pretty disgusting. This appears to be a city council member of Palo Alto. So, not surprising, but still, doesn't make you happy to see.
You've got to vote against Measure D.
There's an aspect of sort of greed here and of nervousness about actually sharing those opportunities.
True enough.
Let's go to another liberal bastion up here in Washington state. The Democratic Party talks about taxation, saying that our tax code has been, quote, rigged against the American people. Democrats all the time are decrying the fact that tax cuts are going to the wealthiest Americans.
It is time for a wealth tax in America.
True, but they don't ever actually do that part of it. At least not anymore. Not since we've been on the neoliberal train of the Reagan-Thatcher era. Yeah, good point, James. Population grows and property doesn't. The Earth isn't getting any bigger. And you can kind of get around that by having multifamily units, putting people on top of each other. But that is true. It's not really what's at the heart of housing shortages, though. We have plenty of space still in the U.S. for housing everybody. That's never really the problem. It's more that the places that people want to live, they're being kept out of.
Democrats believe in a progressive tax system where the rich pay a larger share of their income than the poor. This is like the most basic policy vision of like a progressive movement. It's front and center in Democrats' policy platform.
But if you go and look at Washington state, what you find is that in Washington state, if you look at the state and local taxes that people pay there, less affluent families pay a much larger share of their income in taxes than the wealthiest residents of Washington state. So people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, two of the state's most famous and wealthy residents,
probably not coincidentally why they pay the least. They're the two of the most powerful people on earth.
Are in this lovely situation of paying less in taxes as a share of their income than the poor people who live in that same state. And this is a fundamental inversion of the values that the Democratic Party professes. There is no state with a more regressive system of taxation than Washington state.
Yeah, they're absolutely hypocrites for this. And we should, at the very least, turn that around. The richest should always pay the highest amount of taxes, you know, in relation to their overall income. And it should be less and less as those brackets go down. The rich enjoy the most privileges. You know, they have the most opportunities to them. If for no other reason, they are just the most privileged people in the country, and the country has done the most for them. So just through that, they should owe the most. So yeah, he's again not wrong. In practice, the Democrats do not fight for progressive taxation. They want to keep their donors. So this again points to a big flaw in having a capitalist system where, especially with our capitalist system, money has been equated with speech. So politicians have a pretty big interest in getting as much donations as possible, and the wealthiest of people have the most ways of funneling that money to them in return for favorable treatment. You shouldn't be able to buy a system. You shouldn't be able to buy politicians. That's pretty fundamentally anti-democratic, pretty fundamentally, there's no justification for it. So yeah, they're absolutely right. We need more progressive taxation. Democrats are not delivering it.
And I'm talking like the most regressive, meaning Texas, which is like the conservative bastion of like anti-taxes, is more progressive than Washington state, liberal Washington state. How is that real? Oh, and guess what? Other states on our map also are in the top 10 of most regressive tax regimes, like Nevada and Illinois.
There have been some changes, particularly in recent years, but the overall situation remains resistant to change.
So I'm very concerned that at this time, which is a very poor time to disincent people from creating jobs in Washington State that were even considering it.
From
I just want to smack the smug out of that guy's face. In Minecraft, not for real. I have no idea who he is even. But wow. I'm just flabbergasted. We even consider taxing us job creators more in a time like this. Absolutely ridiculous. And they found that. Actually, I won't even go into that right now. Let's just keep on going on.
From that paycheck,
I wish he would fix his focus of his camera for this part of the video. I don't know if it's as apparent on the small screen, but he has his books in focus while his face is slightly out of focus. So his camera had not picked up the right focus field.
check that you earn, more of that money is going to state government. And so the effect of that is basically to exacerbate inequality.
Okay, so rich liberals don't show up when it comes to housing or taxes.
Yeah, they're definitely not doing enough with either of those things. I'm pretty sure the position they're coming from is a more conservative one. So it's I don't know even what kind of logical fallacy you would call it, but just because the Democrats are not doing it, it doesn't in no way means that the Republicans would or do better in any way. Just because one thing is bad doesn't mean the only other viable option is better. Because that's definitely not true. If the Republicans had it their way, there'd be zero taxes. Or there'd be just enough taxes to fund the court system. And that's really it. Fund the court system to keep the poors in prison as much as possible, especially if they were not willing to work for the wages that they were being offered. Well, then also policing too. Gotta have taxes enough for police to enforce private property laws. Yeah, as long as the system of private property law and its enforcement is in place, I think that's about as much as a Republican would like.
Another major theme in this policy document is education. And the wording in here I find quite interesting. The Democrats say, quote, "We must provide world-class education in every zip code to every child because education is a critical public good."
That is the truth. That is the truth, but then how do we fund our education systems? Through local property taxes, which can be gerrymandered, which are gerrymandered often in ways that exclude the poor, which just so happen to most often be non-white people as well. So it is de facto systemic racism. Even if there's no racist language in any of the policies, by funding things that way, you pretty much guarantee that the people that are starting out from the lowest place are going to, by and large, end up still in that lowest place, generation after generation. So then if you can gerrymander things like school districts to funnel as much money into your own school districts, where you're good and rightful heirs of the country are being raised and educated, then you can also ensure that they'll have a better chance to succeed themselves. So again, those words from the Democrats are true. The policy does not always match that.
They use this word zip code to represent the fact that in America, schools get their funding based on the real estate taxes of the houses within that school district. The more expensive the neighborhood, the more...
I mean, it just legalized discrimination. Even if you were too timid to call it racial discrimination, it certainly is economic discrimination. I mean, just out and out. It's not even trying to hide it. Richest people want the best schools. That's it. And they don't really care about what happens to everyone else. They'd probably prefer lower class people to be less educated because it means less competition for them and their children. So yeah. So it's absolutely atrocious way to fund schools, and it should be done away with. At the very least, all of the property tax money should go into a single state pot and then be redistributed in terms of number of children in each school district. Whether or not that child is in public or private school, that should be immaterial. It should always go to the public schools for funding. And that's it. That is the only fair way to fund schools. And even that would have then discrepancies from state to state. So it'd probably be even better to have it go to the federal Department of Education and be redistributed to the states evenly, by number of students per school district. And that's just how it should be done. Because everyone deserves the same level of education from the government. There should be no legal way of discriminating when it comes to that.
More funding goes to the school. So over here in Illinois, which is like the quintessential liberal state, there's this one.
Also one of the biggest Democratic, not Democratic police, but one of the biggest Democratic machine politics states, especially when you get around the Chicagoland area. So that comes into play as well. And that's going to distort the outcome of things, where money is funneled to, where it's not funneled to. So, yeah, probably not the best test case, but let's see where it goes.
One county that contains the city of Chicago, it's called Cook County. The residents here voted overwhelmingly for Democratic candidates in the presidential and senatorial elections last year. Often what would happen is that this would just be one big school district, and that all the taxes from all the towns in this county would be put into one bucket and distributed equally. That
is minimally the fair way to do things. But as I said, even that is not fair to the surrounding suburbs or the rural areas. Why should rural people get a lower quality education just because they happen to be in a less prosperous or an area with less property taxes per square mile or whatever? Everyone should get the same level of education. Everyone should. There's no justification otherwise. There just is not.
Throughout the county. But the residents of this very blue Democratic county have actually decided to divide themselves into more than 140 school districts.
Some of those are squares. Some of those are pretty identifiably based on geography. But then you get to these smaller ones, and yeah, it starts to resemble that gerrymander that first gerrymandered district was political district was named for. And then you start to wonder, why are these strange shapes coming into play? Couldn't be that they're trying to sidestep poor areas of that part of the city, could it?
So now you have all these tiny school districts like this one, which are like gerrymandered around the richest part of town. And so all of the taxes from these rich homeowners go into one little bucket and then only get distributed to the schools within this rich region of the county.
It can be on the same block that the town line runs through the middle of it. And if you live on one side of that line, you're consigned to an inferior education.
Yep, absolute discrimination. Just not even trying to hide it.
By virtue of the fact that you and your neighbors don't have as much money. And if you live on the other side, you're basically a member of a club that is sponsoring a private school, essentially, for the benefit of that small group of kids who are lucky enough to live in that affluent community.
And even more reason why public dollars should never go to private institutions. There should be no school voucher system where you can, because my child doesn't go to public school, I should be able to take that tax money that would go to his education or her education and instead put it towards my institution of choice. No, absolutely not. That is a even more unfair way of doing things, because then you're funneling money out of the public school system into private school systems, which, I mean, just fundamentally, if you're a parochial school, that would mean that the public is funding religious institutions. So there's a huge legal conflict with that. But then also, it's about providing that opportunity for education for everyone. So just because you are choosing not to have your child go to that school, the public school, that shouldn't mean that that school is less funded in any way.
And the result is that poor communities have less money to educate their children, and rich communities have more money to educate their children. This is crazy. It means basically that the kids who have the greatest needs have the fewest resources.
The same thing is happening in wealthy, liberal Connecticut, where the inequality in education opportunities is shameful, with some schools having huge budgets for their libraries and facilities, and others in the same state having to use duct tape to keep wind and snow out of their windows. Like, this is a real thing.
We need your help in establishing guidelines, procedures, and funding to address issues negatively impacting our students, like extreme temperatures, mold, lead exposure, and poor water and air quality.
So yeah, Binya tells me that the states could change this. They could actually just collect all the real estate taxes and then equally distribute them. But if you look at some of our liberal strongholds, that is exactly what they are not doing. Let me be clear about something. In blue states, progress is being made, albeit slowly. For instance, a few weeks ago, California finally passed a law that gets rid of single-family zoning. It's a small step in the right direction. And in many cases, blue states provide more and better public services, and historically have given better chances to low-income families to climb the economic ladder. But for some of these foundational democratic values of housing equality, progressive taxation, and education equality, Democrats don't actually embody their values very well.
We're talking, once again, about a system that's been rigged.
Republicans today are to blame.
What we're talking about here is that blue states are the problem. Blue states are where the housing crisis is located. Blue states.
Okay, so here's where they're kind of glossing things over to make a point that's outside of what the what they've actually presented. Saying that they are the problem, that's where the housing crisis is. Well, I mean, that's where the most housing is in blue states. You know, you're just taking California, Illinois, and New York State. That's most of the housing in the country. So yeah, of course, there's going to be the most housing problems, and the most housing demand too. And yes, they are falling down on their promises. Yeah, I don't know exactly what he's going to say is the alternative here. So let's
states are where the
listen.
disparities in education funding are the most dramatic. Blue states are the place.
That's because, and again, that's because red states just don't fund education, so everyone gets a shitty education, even the ones in the bigger cities in red states. So yeah, if everyone is getting bad education, that is a type of equality. It's a sort of equality that they're always decrying about socialism. You know, it's like, oh, everyone's equally poor. Ha 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 ha. It's the one joke. But in the case of red states and education, it is true. Everyone is equally bad education because they just don't fund it. Because they just don't like taxes.
Places where tens of thousands of homeless people are living on the streets. Blue states are the places where.
And again, it's just where most people live, so it's not really possible to have huge homeless camps in low populous areas. It's just, where are they going to go? Just camp out in a cornfield? They would starve to death. If you're a homeless person, you're going to go where you can survive. And then also, it's probably not a coincidence, too, that places like California and LA especially, where the weather is never going to get to the point where it's going to kill you outright. I mean, I'm sure they get some pretty extreme heat, and people probably do die of heat exhaustion sometimes. It still does not register to me as much of a threat as freezing to death in a colder state. So there's that aspect of it too. It's just a little bit easier to be homeless if you can survive outside and the weather won't kill you overnight. But yeah, but again, these are the biggest concentrations of people. These are the biggest concentrations of resources for homeless people. So yeah, if you're a homeless person, you're probably going to want to go to one of these places.
Where economic inequality is increasing most quickly in this country. This is not a problem of not doing well enough. It is a situation where the blue states are the problem.
Affluent liberals tend
to just saying they are the problem. It's that they're not. The problem is that they're, one, not living up to what they say, but then also they're not willing to give up the system that itself is the problem. So it's not about blue states or red states even. It's about commodified housing. It's about education that is apportioned in a way that is where it's legal to discriminate based on income. It is what was it? So they said housing, education, and taxation. And yeah, it's about a system that there's basically legal bribery in the form of campaign contributions. These are the underlying problems. It way more than whether or not it is a red state or a blue state. Because certainly any of those states being red states instead would not make the situation better. It would only make it worse.
Tend to be really good at showing up to the marches and talking about how they love equality. They're really good at putting signs in their lawns saying that all are welcome here. But by their actions, what they're actually saying is, yes, we believe in these ideals, just not in my backyard.
We are not living our values. People who live in blue states, people who profess liberal values, you need to look in the mirror and need to understand that they are not taking the actions that are consistent with those values, not just incidentally, not just in small areas, but that some of the most important policy choices. We are denying people the opportunity to prosper and to thrive and to build better lives, and it is happening in places where Democrats control the levers of policy.
Yeah, see, again, because it's coming from the New York Times, and because they're saying blue states are the problem, I can only conclude that their proposed solution is to have them be red states instead, which would just make the problem worse. Because they didn't once say how having even less of a progressive tax system would help things. How having, even stricter zoning laws would help housing. How any other policy would help housing. They didn't really have any sort of a solution in mind for that. And yeah, they didn't say how having even more segregated school districts would work better. So yeah, they were right through most of their points they made were right, but it seems like they were for the wrong reasons, and that really more than it being blue states, it was the system itself that was to blame, the system of capitalism that commodifies housing, that rewards politicians that do the bidding of the owning class, and that therefore therefore those same politicians then part of doing that bidding is lowering the taxes for those people that donate the most to their campaigns. So, not the best. Alright, let's see what else I got in the hopper here. We'll take that one out of mix. Let's see what else we got. We can do Ask a Psychopath. That might be interesting. There's a longer documentary on the Wobblies. Probably be a 2-episode sort of thing. Why it's harder to earn more than your parents. The Economist. And I got a whole bunch of video essays and stuff. I think I've done that one on balcony gardening, so we'll move that one to. Yeah, I think I've done all these ones on farming and aquaponics. What are people feeling like? Got a couple people out there watching. What do you guys feel like watching tonight? Anything on your minds in particular? Any issues? Doesn't even have to be politics. We can talk about whatever. Yeah. There's no limit to what we can do right now. It's just kind of a very free-form sort of a stream. What do we want to look at? Any topic even. Look at like decommodifying housing, anything. Oh, there's eclipse tonight. Let's see if we can find something about the eclipse, huh? Eclipse May 2022. Let's see what's going on there.
Well, starting tomorrow night, the moon will be bathed in hues of red and orange. Just look at this photo, really neat. So a total lunar eclipse will happen, lasting for about 90 minutes in one of the longest totalities of the decade. Now, it will be the first so-called blue moon in a year, and those of us in the eastern half of North America will have a prime seat for the whole show. So,
ooh, I'm just on the dividing line. I wonder if I'll even be able to see it tonight.
with more on what to expect, here's 11 Alive meteorologist Andrew Wilson.
A lot of excitement this
Not my
week
local
regarding
Channel
this
11.
lunar eclipse. Now things are going to get started for the event right at about 9:25 p.m. Now that's going to be as the moon starts to move into that partial Earth shadow. So not a lot to see about at that time period, but once we get to about 10:27 to about 11:29 p.m. even, that's going to be when we start to see that total lunar eclipse starting to take place. The maximum eclipse.
I'm not staying up that late, but if any of you do, tell me how it goes. You know, put a picture in the Discord or something like that. That'd be cool.
12:11 a.m. and then that total lunar eclipse is really going to start to come to an end by about 12:53 in the morning. Still a little bit to see as the moon passes back through that partial shadow of the Earth at 1:55 a.m. and then the whole event wraps up at 2:50.
Cool. That's nice. Let's see what else we can find. Any other topics you guys want to talk about? Otherwise, what would be interesting to look at now? We could take a look. What can we take a look at? Do stuff about transportation, maybe, or how we could look at housing, like what actual good housing policy looks like. Or we could do something more light. See what Ants Canada is up to. This guy does like custom ant terrariums. Let's check this out. Oh boy, he's got some
Guys,
music.
you have to see the coolest thing I saw this week. This is my pet spiny ant colony. We here on the channel call them Blades of Midas, due to their amazing spiny bodies and shiny golden gasters. Now these ants are pretty epic, as we've been watching them build an entire fortress into this driftwood, using moss collected from their environment. This forest terrarium kingdom home we designed for them, named Polyraxia. But as for the cool thing I saw, it was a construction add-on to the colony's main moss ball nest in the wood, a basement. You guys will truly be mind-blown at these brilliant ant architects. Welcome everyone to the Ants Canada
Ants
Ant
Canada.
Channel.
It's actually he makes things really interesting for it just being really cool.
Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. So aside from taking a look at the basement our ants constructed, I also have some pretty amazing news for you all. Two things actually. I've been waiting patiently for the longest time to share these two pieces of news with you. And I'll be making the announcement towards the end of the video. So do stay tuned for all that coming up. Trust me, it's awesome. But first, let's enter Polyraxia. The ants are busy, as usual, going about their various activities. There were ants carrying the dead to the grave, like this ant here. If you're new to the ant lifestyle, you may be surprised that they are in many ways exactly like humans. Like most other ant species, the blades of Midas need to be as clean and sanitary as possible. So to keep...
So not like all humans. Oh man, my freshman year of college comes to mind. We had gender segregation by floor, and you could smell the difference between the guys' floors and the women's floors. So
keep their living
maybe not entirely like people.
Quarters mold and disease free. And just to make sure, dead bodies aren't just laying around decaying everywhere. After a long trek up some ferns, across some great rocks, a driftwood bridge, and a dirt path, the body is finally dumped here into the community graveyard. Near the nest, some members of the Blades of Midas are acting as guards. Look at how they assume a threatening stance, ever ready to shoot formic acid at any predator. Now you want to...
Oh, they're one of the acid-shooting ants. That sounds like one that would just be horrifying to stick your hand in one of those nests and really get them going. Getting little jets of acid spat at you. I mean, they don't look that big, but man, I don't think I want anything to be shooting acid at me. That sounds terrible.
I see something cool, but also funny, AC family. Check this out. This ant appears to be asleep, but it's kind of wobbling.
Weird.
Now, I've seen this behavior in almost every ant I've ever kept. First off, this answers some of you who may be wondering if ants sleep. Yes, they do, but generally in short 2-minute naps.
Had no idea.
But during these naps, I often see the ants wobbling their legs, as you see here.
Kind of like a dog.
My guess is the ants are dreaming. And what you're seeing here is the ant sleep moving. You know, exactly how dogs and some people do in their sleep. If it is dreaming, I wonder what this ant could possibly be dreaming about. Hope it's a happy dream, about finding some sweet sugary food. Sleep well, ant. But let's head over to the moss nest now.
I think we'll probably leave it there for that one. Find something different to watch. That's an interesting channel, though. I like to check in once in a while. Ghost ants. Ooh. You guys seen this one before? Crime pays, but botany doesn't. Let's see what we got. Let's see what's new with this channel. This guy's great, though. He has like a very, very thick Chicago accent. I always wonder how much he plays that up for the videos and how much is just authentic. But he's hilarious too. Let's see. Well, a bunch of cactus stuff. Cacti ones don't usually interest me as much as the tropical ones. So let's see if we can find something tropical, huh? Oh yeah, butterfly center. That's cool.
Oh shit. I think I ate some baked tamales. Hope I don't throw up over it. Anyway, hello and good morning. Welcome to another episode of Crime Pays, but Botany Doesn't. Today I was here.
Well, hello.
Hi.
Would you like to join the stream?
Oh, I just smelled tacos.
I'm definitely not eating tacos in here.
I know, but it smells like tacos in here.
Oh, does it make you want tacos?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you watching?
We're watching Crime Pays, but Botany Doesn't. You want to watch?
I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay, well, after you do that, you should come in and watch.
Okay.
Amanda's going to join us in a couple of minutes.
At the National Butterfly Center in Mission, Texas. And I'm here with a public service announcement for America's seniors, okay? The same way that you gotta worry about your kids getting into all this goofy woke stuff when they go to college, we still have to worry about our beloved grandparents once they retire and they don't got nothing to do and they start watching the right-wing medias and the Fox News, okay? Right-wing media is like a madrasa for your grandparents, okay? And it's caused us to lose so many of our beloved seniors in this day and age. And that's why I'm here to report on how the QAnon conspiracy wackos from Florida, which is already a bad sign, maybe they're smoking methamphetamine too, but they came here and they tried to shut the Butterfly Center down because I think they were worried that the...
What? This is wild. Threats from QAnon conspiracists have forced a butterfly sanctuary in Rio Grande Valley to close. Oh, God. Is there anything QAnon cannot ruin? I would like to know. It's ridiculous. Here's the current video. I will post it for you. This is a fantastic, non-stop entertainment channel. Crown pays with botany doesn't.
Butterflies were helping smuggle illegal migrants and Guatemalan mothers into the country to show up and go to Iowa and take. So I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what was going on, but it was a bad deal, and you got a lot of wackos coming here, and so they had to shut the Butterfly Center down, which is a shame because they're conserving a lot of rare plants and really cool native animals like the eastern indigo snake on this property. Okay, cool. As you can see behind me, it's all fields. It's all been denuded for the agriculture. Nice. You get this guy to hack. The fucking truckers never humped for you no more. You know, that guy looked like he was miserable. Anyway, let's go inside and see what's going on and what we can do to prevent America's seniors from continuing to be radicalized in such an awful manner by these wacko conspiracy theories. And I don't know what they think they were doing, drinking the blood of Christian children in there or something. I don't know. But you talk to some of those people, you know, that's what happens. You retire, you go online, you just end up playing into Mark Zuckerberg's conflict algorithm, and you know, doing you know, they end up trying to get engagement for conflict, and next thing you know, you're coming out here trying to protest at the Butterfly Center. So it's just a bad deal all around. Anyway, let's go inside and see what's going on. Look at this. Look, now I was here once before, and I'll be honest, this does look like the kind of place I'd get myself thrown out of. Not on purpose, but just, you know, as a matter of being. But I was here a couple months ago. They didn't have this sign here. They didn't have this. You know what? They're going to have to get an electric...
All right.
Hi, guys.
All right. Welcome on Amanda to the program.
What up? You can't see it. It's electric fence. Just kidding, you can see it.
How'd you feel about doing the electric slide the other night at the wedding there? Did you feel like you were getting it by the end?
Absolutely not.
It's actually not that complicated a set of rules as far as most line dancing goes.
There were not spoken word directions, so.
Yeah, basically it's shuffle right, shuffle left, back, and then you tap, and then you tap, and you tap, and then you do a ball chain switch. You know, the front of your foot, the ball of your foot, you spin on that, a half turn, and then you go slide. That's it.
Sure.
Okay. We'll practice for the next wedding.
No, that's okay. I do need headphones though. If I'm
Oh yeah, you probably should hear what this guy's saying about the butterfly sanctuary. Apparently the QAnoners there, they were protesting it because they thought that the butterflies were bringing in illegal immigrants or something. So they got the butterfly sanctuary shut down temporarily, is the upshot of it. Because QAnon ruins everything.
This is a joke, right?
No, this is real. They really got it shut down because of some crazy conspiracy.
Do you think that's what happened to the Kalamazoo Butterfly Sanctuary?
Probably.
Oh my god.
Probably. QAnon is like the conspiracy theory. They'll take anything. Constantly morphs.
There was a lovely butterfly tent at the Kalamazoo, you guys.
Oh, it was the best.
And it was free, which is another one of my favorite things. Not having to pay for things.
That's right. That's what us lefties like.
But everyone can enjoy. This is important.
It is important.
Access for all. How many of you guys in the chat went out to protest? People trying to regulate lady bodies.
Not just lady bodies, but just all womb havers.
Womb havers, excuse me.
That's okay.
God, I've been on here for like 2 seconds. I'm already in trouble.
Well, whose fault is that?
Fine, I'll just go back in the other room. Maybe I'll make tacos.
You can learn. And anyone's redeemable. Just remember that.
I made bread today.
You made delicious bread. Don't undersell yourself. That was very high quality bread. And for your first effort too, pretty proud of you. Yeah, it's work. Alright. Shall we continue on with this business here with the maybe getting kicked out of the butterfly sanctuary?
Sure.
Fence. It does. I mean, I will be honest. So a lot of the QAnon people don't look like they could hop a fence, though. They look rather portly. They might have trouble. But either way, that's what we're dealing with here. Can't we just get America's seniors back into bird watching and gardening clubs and get them off of Facebook or wherever they're picking up all this wacko right-wing stuff? I don't know. Just get them to calm down. Don't you want to spend your golden years relaxing instead of worrying about shit that doesn't really affect you? Okay, anyway, that's enough. Let's go inside. See, already I'm getting the staunch vibes of a grand human smuggling operation. See, look at that. Look at it. They got the water lilies in there. Basal angiosperms, by the way. Tortoise crossing. What does that mean? Huh? Are the tortoises smuggling illegal immigrants and drinking the blood of babies? You never know. Okay? This could be a sign for tortoises crossing the road for the Texas tortoises. Go for Spurlandieri.
Fact. The tortoise is the animal personification of one Mitchell McConnell.
That is true.
That's the connection, guys. Continue.
Okay.
Or it could be some sort of coded message for illegal aliens crossing the border en route to places like Iowa and Minnesota where they're going to go torture American families. Could be that. God damn, you know, a lot of the mimosoids don't really get the appreciation they deserve, and this is one of them, okay? Vitellia farnesiana. Look at this, I can smell it from here. Grandiose, a grandiose bastard, grandiosebastards.com. There are the flowers right there. You can see the leaves are just these tiny bipinnate little leaflets right there.
Mimosas.
The flowers are incredible. What you're looking at, this
That looks like a sensitive plant. I wonder if they're related because the flowers on the sensitive plant are a very similar style and they are a light purple. And those leaves look like the sensitive plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could be. I'm going to have to reduce the quality because it is not picking up real well.
And also, for those of you who have not had the pleasure of touching a sensitive plant, I highly suggest that you do it next time you see one because it's so fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I don't know if they're related. I would probably be...
Looking it up.
Yeah, you should look it up. My guess is they're both part of the pea and
To
bean.
the internet.
Pea and bean family. But mimosas, in general, are some of my favorite tree species. There's one called a blue jacaranda. It's one of the few blue flowering trees in the world, and it's just gorgeous. People locally hate it because all the flowers, they get ground into the pavement.
They
and
are
get
related.
Slick. Cool. There you go. But there's a bunch of really beautiful mimosa trees out there.
This is the sensitive plant.
I don't know if they're gonna be able to see it. Hold on. No, that's too bright. That's too bright. I will look up the sensitive fern and I'll put it up on the screen momentarily. In fact, I'll just put a link up.
So cute. Really great if you have little kids.
Yeah. Oh wow, they really do look similar, don't they?
Told ya.
Yeah. how to care for sensitive plant. Put that in the chat. Right there in the chat.
Where'd everybody go? I came on.
James was here.
I came on and everybody left.
Yeah, I don't know who else is.
Oh, man.
That's okay. Maybe botany was not their subject du jour. So, hey, it's not for everybody.
I like his finger tattoos.
I was just gonna say, did you notice his centimeters finger tattoo?
But also the diamond on his thumb.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
I wish I could have tattoos.
Oh, we're so too.
It's not one flower. That's dozens of flowers. You could see them in there.
Oh, wow.
See those green, are those the petals or the sepals? I think it's just one series. I think those are the petals. 5 fused petals. And then you got all those stamens poking out right there. And there's one style for flower too. All right, and then of
The leaves do the same thing.
Oh, did you see the leaves closing up?
Yeah.
I wonder if all the mimosas do that. Interesting.
Of course, that matures into a little bean pod. Okay, these things, you could smell them from 30 feet away, and they're an important food source for all the insects, which are then an important food source for all the birds and other critters around. There you got from the same subfamily the mesquite, infamous mesquite trees, Prosopis glandulosa. You could see the flowers up there. Same general thing going on. Little rods, little yellow rods consisting of, I don't know, 100 to 200 tiny little flowers that look like the flowers on that Vichelia that I just showed you. Now let's take a close look at some of these flowers right here. These Prosopis flowers, okay? The honey mesquite, Prosopis glandulosa. Look at all the pollen just dumping out of those things. Let's zoom in and see what we got going on right there. Oh, God damn, look at the praying mantis.
Reminds me of the
Get out of here. Were you trying to make a cameo? Come on. Okay, anyway, let's look at those flowers. So look at what you got. You got sepals at the base that are only about 1 millimeter long. And then those 5 fused petals.
Can we pause here just a sec?
Of course.
How cute.
That's really cute.
It's so cute. I wonder what chenille looks like that close.
Yeah, we should look sometime. Bring your zoom in feature for your camera. Yeah, shuka shuka. I'm gonna see if I can turn off LinkedIn, because I don't think I'm even streaming LinkedIn. It's probably...
I might have done it because I was on it the other day.
No, yeah, it's not even streaming to LinkedIn, so we're gonna turn it off anyway. Hopefully that'll make the stream a little more smooth.
I'm gonna have to make several more loaves of bread
Funnel
this week.
that are about 3 millimeters long. You just got all the stamens pouring out of those. And you got easily 100 flowers per spike, like that. And then of course you can make a tea out of those flowers, and these are an important food source for everything from coyotes to birds to humans. Okay, these are an important food source for humans because the mesquite beans are very nutritious. Okay, you can make a lot of stuff out of them. What are you doing? You're supposed to be killing something? What are you doing, you weirdo, huh? Get out of here. You think I don't know that if you were my size, you'd eat me? I know how sick you bastards are. What are you doing now? And where'd you even come from? Get off of me. I'm gonna put you on this tree, all right? Okay, let's talk about this plant. Okay, Yucca trichuliana, all right? You can see it looks dangerous as hell. Certainly not something you want to...
Do you want to grow yucca in our house? That'd be very pokey. Take up a lot of space. Maybe if we had like a whole big greenhouse someday. We get our own house. Like a solarium on the roof. Yeah, someday it can happen.
I want to live in Hey Arnold's house.
Yeah, right? Hey Arnold has way too few plants. That's a very strange way of making a sentence, but yeah.
Arnold is not
he doesn't have enough plants.
optimizing his space.
No, he could be growing a hell of a lot more. Maybe Hey Arnold, the teenage years involves a grow operation that he hides from his grandpa.
No, because Grandpa'd be into it.
He probably has arthritis by then, so yeah.
We're watching that right now, in case anyone was curious why we were talking about Hey Arnold.
That's true.
It's also a high-quality cartoon.
It's a high-quality cartoon?
Like, I liked it the first time, but I like it even more now.
Yeah.
Arnold's a leftist.
Yeah, in many ways, yeah. He's got that basic empathy, and care for the injustices that he sees around. Yeah, sure. Yeah, James is still here. Hello, James.
Hi, James. I made bread.
Yeah, really, really good bread.
Sorry, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be her
I
new
wish
hobby.
I could share it with you guys.
I'm sure she's gonna get into like sourdough and stuff.
Yeah, I'm starting sourdough starter tomorrow. I need Zach to pick up my order. Because apparently you need 2 different kinds of flour to make sourdough. Fact. Wow.
Wow.
So if you got any friends that are alcoholics and you end up putting this in your yard, you're going to want to find a way to keep them away. Always got to worry about the drunks stumbling into stuff, right? They'll both destroy the stuff they stumble into and themselves. But anyway, looking at this plant, okay, beautiful native yucca of the Rio Grande Valley down here in South Texas, you can see how important that massive inflorescence is. Look at it, you got easily 300 flowers on each spike. Let's take them off. I mean, you could technically eat these. I don't know if you'd want to, but you know, because the foraging is such a fad right now, I might as well mention it. All right, they might upset your stomach a little bit. I tried it once when I was a kid, just for shits and giggles. Look at those stamens. Okay, hang on. All right,
Look
you can
at
get bees
those
pollinating
stamens.
these, but the specialist pollinators are moths. So the moths come at night, and the pollen grains are actually aggregated into 2 little nodules called pollinia, just like orchids and milkweeds, although yuccas aren't related to either of those. Well, I guess they're in the same order as orchids. Anyway, the moths come in, they grab those little pollinia, and then they stuff them down into the stigma of another yucca plant and then fly off. So the moths are the specialist pollinators of yuccas here. Look at that.
That's really
Look
cool.
at a bulbous anther. 6 bulbous anthers and 6 tepals, because we are talking a monocot. The flower feels pretty fleshy. There's the stigma right there. The ovaries in the center. You got a 3-carpelled ovary. See those 3 seams on it? Okay, 3 distinct units. And then you got that stigma in there where the pollen's going to land. And he's mostly pollinated by moths at night. But you could also get bees in there. Anything really, you know? Huge source of sugar right there. And look at that. You just got that stack beneath that armament of spines, that stalk, that massive stem storing all them carbs and whatnot, because it is technically a succulent, okay? Beautiful bastards when they go off. And of course they're resilient too, very drought tolerant. And like an agave, they just store all their carbs in that massive stem right there. And then, you know, so they can flower independent of rainfall, okay? I mean, it's had to have been a very bad year if the yuccas aren't flowering, at least bad year in terms of moisture. Okay, so here we are, we're with Stephanie Lopez, who's the head nursery person for the nursery right here at the Butterfly Center. Stephanie, what are we doing here? What's going on?
Growing plants, just trying to get some more plants ready for our nectar-loving butterflies, our birds, and bring in some more bees.
Okay, so what do you guys do here? Where do you guys get all your nursery stock from? You growing it from seed or what?
We grow some seeds, we work on cuttings. We do acquire some that we might not have already, but pretty much everything is our seed source, and we collect from our own gardens to be able to sell them to more people and be able to create more gardens apart from just at the Butterfly Center.
Okay, so you want to show us some of the stuff you got? Like, do you guys sell plants to the public, or you just planted these out in the area around here, or what are you doing?
So,
what's up?
You didn't change the name. It's still me.
Oh, did it still say you?
That was really nice, though, that they like help out the community. Butterflies are cute. I mean, Amanda is here now.
That's okay. I want to change it back because otherwise I'm going to forget again.
I see how it is.
There we go. I didn't even notice that. I meant to change it before I started. Oh, wow.
It's alright. Y'all are getting nervous now because of Women's March and stuff's about to get real.
Oh, God.
Should be scared.
Country is not going in a good direction.
Nope.
Thanks for the follow, Avast the Hero. We're just doing kind of a casual whatever stream tonight.
Casual Sunday.
So if you have anything in mind that you'd like to watch, let me know. James says yucca stems are kind of weird, kind of like corn on the cob with the flowers. Yeah, it's like popcorn on the cob. Yeah, it's like that you know, that kind that you get in the bag and you put in the microwave.
Popcorn is the shit.
Yeah, it's a bold statement.
I love popcorn.
Yeah, I made some from the old-fashioned way for you just the other night.
Also, I tried to grow popcorn once. That didn't go so well. We had a popcorn bar at our wedding reception. That was also the shit.
Yeah, that was very popular, in fact. That was really good.
Well, we sell plants to the public. We want to make sure that these gardens are not just here, that our butterflies have homes all over the valley. We're trying to make sure everybody gets all these plants in the ground and ready for our butterflies.
It's actually a strategy that I try to employ when I'm doing landscape designs. I do landscaping. That's my main gig. Do a lot of design work, and no matter what kind of design I'm doing, I always try to throw in some pollinator-friendly stuff. So I've been putting a lot of butterfly weed into my designs lately. So even tropical ones too, because butterfly weed, it looks kind of tropical.
That is super cute.
It's very cute, and it's really good for the butterflies.
Butterfly in the sky.
Butterfly season.
Okay, so you guys aren't just focusing on stuff that's pretty. You're thinking about how much nectar does this plant produce, how tolerant is it of neglect, say if someone doesn't end up watering, or if it's out in habitat and it hasn't rained for a month or two. So what are the plants that you guys specialize in the most, that you seem to think provide the most nectar for the pollinators and whatnot?
Yeah, so we focus on our mist flowers. For example, this is our crucita. So our blue mist flower, this is a plant that we also call butterfly crack.
So this is
butterfly crack. Cool.
This is Chromalina odorata. This is the butterfly crack.
Correct. And it's gonna bloom purple, that gorgeous color. It's mainly gonna bloom in the.
It looks very similar to blazing star, which is another really good butterfly attractor that I try to incorporate a lot.
It's MN butterfly crack.
Yeah. Tall grassberry butterfly crack.
In the fall, so that's when we get all that big migration of butterflies, and it'll attract up to 45 different species in one plant.
So these are important because these butterflies are moving. They're on a move. I've seen a shit ton of monarchs going through Sonora in West Texas. Just, I think it was November or something, going down to Michoacan. And so this is basically the rest stops, the oasis that they need to make sure they can get down there. That's why it's important to plant these plants out, right?
That's correct, and it's their favorite plants. A lot of people come through and they're like, these are what we find in the monte. It's a weed. Well, this is exactly what those butterflies want. This, your lantana.
What's up?
Oh, I thought I saw something about a person that was blocked trying to get in the chat.
No.
My bad. Never mind. Sorry, guys.
You're fine. In the wrong button.
All these plants that mostly you're pulling out and they're weeds, that's what the butterflies want. That's where the nectar's at.
Yeah, I've seen these things. They're related to stevia. They're Asteraceae, which is, stevia, the same stevia sweetener you find in like a high-end coffee shop. It's the same tribe, the Eupatoriae. And these things, they're just profuse blooms of, hundreds, if not thousands of purple flowers.
That's right.
Okay, so you guys don't just do native plants. You do plants that are native to the general continent. I mean, basically, we're in Mexico right now. This is the United States, but it's so far south. It's basically Mexico. And so this is a plant right here that's native to Central America. This is Justicia, right? It's a species. What's the common name for this guy?
This is our Mexican honeysuckle. And it actually has a few different, apart from just for the butterflies, this is great for hummingbirds. So right now we have a rare bird.
I just came across.
It's so pretty. Sorry.
Yeah, it is really pretty. But you should look up too. There's a honeysuckle that grows in Zone 4. There's a few types, but there's one that I just found out about, and it's a climbing honeysuckle. It's a vine honeysuckle. It's really cool and tropical. And it's yellow. You should look it up. Yeah, that's it.
Aww.
Yeah. I bet that would be like a hummingbird magnet.
My mom loves hummingbirds.
Yeah, we should really do. There's a few vines like the Dropmore Scarlet. I think it's another honeysuckle vine. We should do some vines at their house, like right outside that window that she likes to see the hummingbirds at.
Yeah, well, the hummingbirds have been coming around and she has no food out for them. I'm like, Mom, they're expecting you.
Yeah, they know where to come.
They know you feed them before. Or fed them, wow.
You feed them before.
You feed them before, then you gotta feed them again. Oh my God.
Rare hummingbird called the broad-billed hummingbird, and it's hanging out in all of our Mexican honeysuckle. This is what its favorite plant is at this point.
That's probably
okay, so you get the broad-billed hummingbird. They come up from, they're just up here for the summer. They come up for the summer from Central America.
So they actually are not even supposed to be in our area. This guy has been a rare straggler. He should be over like in Arizona, New Mexico. So he's really pushing it, but he's enjoying our honeysuckle.
And you guys are making sure he sticks around by putting out plants that the hummingbirds go nuts for it. All right, they're like crackheads just lurking around here. They get territorial. Have you just noticed one of them, or of this species, or a couple?
So we found this is one, but we had another one in September, also a female and territorial to that area, chasing away the black hummingbirds.
They could be little bastards. You guys you're selling these. You sell these for $4 and $8. You said.
Like blue jays.
So this would be like a $4 plant. So
mean.
someone could come here and get a $4 plant. And then what's the bigger ones you got?
The bigger ones are gallon plants, and those are for $8.
That's a really good price.
Can you imagine what it'd be like if people were
Where
playing
is
this
this
in
place?
This is a Texas butterfly sanctuary.
I don't want to go to Texas.
Well, that's the thing is because it's a butterfly sanctuary, their government operation, then they're not doing this stuff for profit. So all we gotta do is find. I wonder why the Eloise Butler Wildflower Garden doesn't sell plants like all through the summer and stuff.
They can't.
I mean, they should.
It's probably illegal.
Not illegal. I've seen.
Eloise said no.
Eloise has long been dead for like over 100 years, but that's beside the point. She was just one of the rich ladies that donated the land to the city of Minneapolis.
Emily Gilmore of Minneapolis.
Pretty much, yeah. Her and what was the other guy?
Alfred.
No, it was
James J. Hill.
No, the you're really not helping. The park that Eloise Butler is part of.
Theodore Worth.
Theodore Worth, yeah, he was the other big donator of land up there. Neither of them wanted it to have a golf course at all. That was like part of their instructions, but then half of it ended up being a golf course. Anyway.
Because if you got money, you got power.
Yeah, you get to bend the rules to your will.
And don't listen to the people. Because you're a jerk.
Well, I love your little song there.
Front yards instead of the Home Depot garden section. I always shit on the Home Depot garden section. It's easy though. So you got.
That's
so
true.
what's over here? Oh, this is. I know this one. This is the goldenrod, right? That's the solidago, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and so you guys grow this en masse because you get these profuse blooms of tiny yellow flowers, and the butterflies really love those. Now that's like
Butterflies and the bees.
It's like butterfly and bee crack basically. And these are long-lived perennials, pretty, and they'll reseed. I mean, you plant one, you might end up with a couple more, in the drainage ditch
That's
next
kind
year.
of what's going on here. So we planted a few, the seed spread, and we have so much goldenrod right now. This is going to be great for our butterflies. We had that big freeze in February. These were untouched. Even though they look like they would have, all of these were completely perfect. Just
Even the leaves survived.
The leaves survived. Everything.
Jesus, so they're herbaceous perennials. The vegetative parts die. They die back to the root in the winter, but even the leaves survived that freeze.
Even the leaves survived the freeze, and we had this. This was our first plant that bloomed after the freeze.
Oh God, man, these are bangers. They get blamed for allergies.
I love his accent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's pretty top notch there, guy.
I wish I could do an accent like that.
I bet you could if you practiced more. You didn't rely so heavily on the Russian. It's okay. You can do a pretty good Russian stuff.
Of course I can. It's the only one I can do, and it's the one I fall into, no matter what else.
So my mom can do kind of a Norwegian accent, and that's it. And then everything else ends up sounding Norwegian.
Yeah, your mom is a sweetheart.
She is.
Allergies a lot too, but they're not allergenic. That's ragweed, ambrosia, which is same family but much different genus. Let's look at the Citharexilum over here. Okay, so this is the Cytherexilum. What does this do? What's the common name for it? And what's it like for the pollinators and whatnot?
So this is our Berlandier's fiddlewood. This is our triple threat, okay? So we always get all of our flowers. As soon as it starts blooming, you're gonna get all of your flies first. So a bunch of flies will take over it, kind of start nectaring on it. You get your bees, and after all the bees, then come the butterflies. And the butterflies will swarm it. They really, really, really like this plant. And then our fiddlewood will give its fruit, and then we'll be ready for all of our birds to take it on. So this plant really serves many purposes in our gardens.
So the birds help disperse this, basically. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is a member of the pea family, right? This is, what's the common name for it?
This is guamuchil.
Okay, so the scientific name is Pithycillobium dulce. Tell me about this. What does this do?
Mimosa.
So in this place, this is our pixie tree. Our guamuchil is going to be the host plant for our red border pixies and a few sulfurs.
Oh, pretty.
This is going to be that tree that grows
like a
maybe
goth
30, 40 feet
butterfly.
quickly. Gives
Love
us
it.
these seed pods, and when you open the seed pod, there's like a white creamy, how do I describe it? In your seed, it's an enclosing, but it tastes like vanilla cream. It's really
So
good.
these are edible. These are edible. And so these are native to Mexico. They'd basically be native here if we didn't get those intermittent freezes.
Yes.
Okay, now I noticed that, Stephanie, you got this this native Texas cedar elm, which is great, because there's a lot of elms out there. There's, like you get the Siberian elm, which isn't native. It's actually invasive here. But we have these beautiful native elms. But it's hard to imagine the flowers of this one being important for butterflies. So what's going on? What's it do?
So the true purpose of our cedar elms here are that they're a host plant. So our caterpillars for silver emperors, which are those gorgeous blue white butterflies, are actually going to feed on this plant.
So they need this. This is their host plant. This is what they need. Their caterpillars need, basically.
Yeah, without cedar elms, we don't have any silver emperors.
Basically, I mean, that's the thing a lot of people don't seem to realize if they're not familiar with it already, is that, you're not just providing nectar, you actually got to provide the host plant for some of these species that have co-evolved with these particular plants. These butterfly species have co-evolved with these particular plants.
That's correct.
Okay, so here's a plant that'll get the stoners in the audience excited because it's in the same family as cannabis. So let's talk about this. What's going on here?
This is our sugar hackberry, Celtis laevigata. And this plant is actually super important here. So we have a native hackberry trail that you get to enjoy when you come into the center. And this tree right here is what's going to bring in our American snouts, our tawny emperors, hackberry emperors. Aww. It's really important for our butterflies.
So this is a host plant for a lot of. What are the flowers? What are the flowers like? Are they inconsequential, or what do they do?
The flowers they're going to go and nectar on them. But they're not as important, at least for our pollinators here, as the leaves.
So the leaves are the main thing, and these things basically come up like weeds here. Everywhere. I mean, they're just. And how big can some of them get? Because you got 2 or 3 different species down here, right?
Yes. So this one is our sugar hackberry. I would say these trees can get about 80 to 100 feet. I'm probably short loving them.
80 to 100 feet tall.
And they really, really, really are important for our birds, our butterflies. This is where you're going to go look for your warblers in the spring.
That's interesting. I think we only have 1, maybe 2 hackberries that are native to Minnesota, but they're really unique looking trees. You can always tell. They have weird kind of asymmetrical leaves. They're kind of heart-shaped. They got serrations on the edges. And they got these tiny little berries that I think they turn black. They start out green, they turn black. They're very hard. I think you can technically eat them. I don't know if you want to. But then the bark is like cork. It's like this weird, irregular corking pattern. It's really cool.
Cork is antimicrobial.
Oh, nice. And then the hackberry is one of the best trees to stand up to walnuts. So the walnuts produce this stuff called juglone, which kills a lot of other plants. It's chemical warfare, but the hackberry doesn't mind it at all. So you can plant them right together. You can actually use it as a screen if you want to have more sensitive plants on the other side. It's pretty cool.
Uh-oh.
They're going to be munching up there on the leaves.
we'll finish
Possums,
with this
everybody
one.
uses our hackberries.
So these are massively, and the fruits too. The birds are going for the fruits, right? Because when you get like little orange berries on a lot of them.
Yeah, so these are going to be the red berry, a little darker.
Little red berry,
And
okay.
this is going to be, all of our birds are going to eat them. We had one time a bunch of green parakeets came in, and they just fed on this seed the whole time.
Are the green parakeets native, or where do they come from? They're released as pets, or what?
So our green parakeets are actually a native population that was here. And they're reestablishing themselves after a bit of issues with the pet industry.
So we're far enough south, we're getting native parakeets here.
Correct.
Okay.
And red-crowned parrots.
Shout out to the R.I.P. the State Carolina parakeet. Here we go.
All right. That's where we're going to leave that one. Well, that's fun. I love that channel.
He's so fun.
It's always a good time. So, crime pays, but botany doesn't. That's where you got to go. Oh, we're just gonna cold end it here.
I have to end it because I feel really compelled right now to brush my teeth.
That's fine. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. It's time to wind things down. Thank you all for joining.
It's time to wind the thing down. Never mind. Gosh, you do it.
What is the? It's time to wind the things down. Okay. Right there, guy.
I was almost there.
Is it time to wind the thing down? Is that where you're going with that one?
It's time.
It's time to wind it.
It's time to be done. What? You like?
It's close enough there, okay?
How does that even work? That accent.
It almost sounds like a New York one, but then it's got kind of the Midwest flavor there. It's like a Polish hot dog. It's got the elements of the old world, the elements of the.
I mean, sometimes I can do fucking.
Sometimes you can do what? Another version of a Russian accent?
I was gonna try to do my Minnesotan.
Oh yeah, the Minnesotan one.
Go up to Spence and get some.
You can definitely see the
clogs.
The relation there between the. It's got kind of the broad Midwest accent. Yeah. You can see that in the Chicagoland one, but it's not quite the same. It does sound very Southern Canadian though.
Different,
don't you know?
It's different.
Oh yeah. Usually if you go do the oh yeah, you can.
Oh yeah.
You can back into it that way.
You betcha.
You,
Is that Goldine?
Oh yeah, you betcha. Yeah, it's Goldine.
Goldine.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight, Amanda. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for letting me crash your party, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
I gotta go check my bread.
Fun time. So what do you guys think? You know, I don't usually do such unstructured ones. Do you like this sort of format? Do you like being able to kind of throw out whatever you want and we talk about it? Yes. Yeah? You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. We should do this more often then. Maybe we'll do it every other Sunday then, alternating with the shows with Dan.
I mean, sometimes I'm a chaos dragon and...
Well, everyone is a chaos dragon from time to time, as long as you're of the female persuasion.
I think you're supposed to cry when you say that.
You only gotta start crying when you say things that are so profound that they just bring you to tears. Like how Antifa is a punishment from God for the crime of being.
Yeah! Oh, crap. Punishment. Punishment. It's time for punishment.
For the crime of being.
Thank you, James. That's so kind.
Yeah, thank you, James. Ben Shapiro just repeated it as though it was actually a profound
Well,
thing to
if
say.
I just speak really fast like this, and I'm going to be able to put you in your place.
You gotta just pretend that you're saying really profound things, and if you go fast enough, people will just believe you. But it's not just a load of feelings that are dressed up as facts.
Sometimes.
Where are you going with that one?
I don't know. I was trying to do Jordan Peterson, and then his sister
Well,
popped into my
you
head.
have to pretend that you're, Kermit the Frog, but you're from Canada. That's how you do a Jordan Peterson, eh?
Maybe we should try to attempt Abby Shabibo.
What's What's up, classic crew?
Hey, classic crew.
You just have to make
Today we're gonna talk about
You just have to have very exaggerated mouth movements when you talk.
pro-life.
Very enunciated.
No, I just feel like Alexis from Schitt's Creek. Ew, David.
I mean, they probably have about the same level of advice about any given topic, so.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, classically, Abby just threw down about abortion on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
why she should have less rights.
she has this like pink background, right? And she's got this hair. Well, I mean, I don't have hair like her anymore, so it's like, you know, it's like this. And she's like, don't be ashamed to be pro.
Did she whisper it at the end, too?
Yeah, she looks mad at AF, too. It's because she just had a kid. Like, congratulations that you're married to a fucking lawyer and you can afford the lavish lifestyle that you live where you buy $500 hairdryers and your brother's.
Yeah, and you can decide if and when you
Megatron.
ever go back to work and,
Right.
and, you know,
You get to be home.
all that sort of thing. Yeah, right. We should all be so lucky. And really, we should all be so lucky.
Yeah,
We
I
should
can-
all have that option.
I could sell bread at the
I mean,
farmer's
really, all these people that claim so much to care about children and stuff, if you really cared about them, you would want every mother in America to be, or every father, every caregiver, to be able to stay home with children for an extended period, if you actually cared. And you'd be wanting that however that happened.
But if you were a part of America, you would try harder.
Is this
Become
Kardashian?
part of the
You can kind of do a good, what's her face Kardashian.
Oh, do you want some Kim?
Yeah, let's do some Kim. Here comes the vocal fry, everybody. So if that's a triggering...
Just work.
Oh, God.
I mean, everybody's complaining that there's all these jobs. Just go to work.
You just have to make your voice
I mean,
sound like wind whistling through a
Zachariah,
cannon. No.
you don't understand. I am in law school. I have 4 kids, 5 maybe, I forget. And I run a clothing line, a fragrance line, I'm a model, and I was just on SNL and have a TV show.
Got a full plate there.
I'm very busy.
Yeah. Also,
Not to mention, I get up at
not too
6
busy
o'clock.
to.
Zach,
Sorry.
there was a women's march this weekend. Don't cut me off.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I forgot.
Nice. Yeah. So
I get
what I
up
was
at
saying is
6.
not too busy to not have time to
Hire
put down the
personal
working
chef.
class to say no one wants to work.
I mean, if anybody knows about work, it's me, and I'm in the upper echelon.
Yeah, she hires the best people to work for her. So yeah.
And I pay them in hugs. Not really, I don't give them the hugs. They
Probably
have
pays
someone
them
else to do it.
exposure.
Hi, I'm Kim.
That's not what I meant by exposure, but very good pun there.
Yeah.
Thanks for the follow, Corvo Bianco Nero. We're winding it down tonight, so
We're winding it down.
I mean, if you ever get done with your routine here,
Was I being Kim?
I don't
Being
remember. You're
Because
doing a
if
bunch of vocal
anybody
fry.
knows about the working class, it's Kim.
Someone who's never experienced a day of even hunger. in her
Listen,
life.
listen. I used to work for Paris Hilton.
I'm sure that was really slumming it for
I
you.
was married to Kanye West. I don't even know who I am right now. He used to pick all my outfits. And now I have to do it myself.
Oh my god. Okay, are we winding
And I
things
get
down
up
for
at
you
6.
to
I
go?
get up at 6
Okay,
every day
Cool. Are we winding things
to
down?
exercise, and
for
I'm
you
on a
to,
very restricted diet so I can fit in Marilyn Monroe's dress.
I guess doing your shtick is more important than brushing teeth, huh?
It's very important.
Okay.
I will brush my teeth now.
Okay. Thanks for
Remember,
stopping by, Kim. It's always nice to have a
get to
celebrity
work.
presence.
Get to work, guys.
Yeah.
Let's get paid. Work.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. This was a lot of fun.
It's basically the greatest.
I don't know if this is the greatest episode, but it was a lot of fun. It was fine. Yes, it was the greatest episode ever because it was one that you were on. Duh.
I mean, you got a special guest like Kim K.
That's right.
How could you possibly?
Good night, everybody. I will see you tomorrow night. We're going to pick up on, we're on Chapter 2 of A People's History of the United States. Trisha will be joining me again to go through that. And potentially Amanda, especially if she can do her impressions, apparently. That's what it takes more than anything to get her to come on. Like you can critique A People's History of the United States as Kim Kardashian. And that's it. She's signing on that dotted line.
I have to tie a black t-shirt around my head so that I can have hair like her.
Why do you have to? You're not even doing anything with it. It's not like you're flipping the hair around or anything. You just
I don't have much to flip right now.
Do the dumb vocal fry and people will get it.
I wear nude colors.
Oh.
Maybe you could just dress in a plastic bag.
Thanks everyone for joining. See y'all tomorrow night. Don't forget to.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to check out love's TV on Facebook, where we are a leftist creator, streaming and artist community.
Then delete your Facebook because Facebook is trash.
Well, Facebook is trash, but our little corner of it is not. We're building the anti-trash Facebook.
This chair is very heavy.
I'm so sorry for you, Kim. You should probably wait till a servant can come do it for you.
It's just probably not working right now.
Anyway, check out Left Signal Boost TV for more great leftist streams and other artist content. And I will see you all tomorrow night.